Hi, I'm Mark Unger, producer of Roundtable. Because we find this presentation so special, we really would like for you to see this. Please watch.
Welcome to Single Shot at Manhattan Neighborhood Network's Roundtable. Today we will be talking about the path of photographer. We had a lot of guests who had very interesting journey with their photography, but probably none of them had as interesting and as unusual and as successful in his own way journey as Fred Watkins, a photographer of White House. Can you just remind me what's the official title?
Yeah, so I'm in the White House press corps, and I'm semi-retired, but I still will do special events and events for the White House, not for the White House, for correspondence and publications.
Well, that's fascinating, and as I understand, it was a very long and very complex journey that ended with working for the highest political force in our country as a person who documents their activities in everyday life and to a degree. And on this journey you actually had some fascinating moments as well. So thank you very much, Fred, for joining us today, and let's try to explore a little bit what was happening before it started and during this time. So, as I understand, just to start the conversation, you're one of those photographers whose interest was actually coming from their parents. Your father was a photographer as well, not by profession, but by the passion, right?
By the passion. He would do side jobs for people, weddings, and portrait. I grew up in a very influential town in Greenwich, Connecticut, but I lived in the low-income apartments, and my father would make an announcement if anybody had to use the bathroom. I had my mom and two sisters, and if nobody had to use the bathroom, he would transform it into a dark room. And he would develop his film and print his film, the film, and I used to watch the prints, being the developer, and once I saw the image appeared, I was hooked at an early age.
So besides basic understanding of photography, you also acquired a very good understanding of development of the film as well during this time, right?
I absolutely did. I used to come to the shows in New York as a young kid, and he would step by step show me how to develop film and how to print it.
Well, and that skill, if I remember correctly, was one of the things that helped you in the early stages of your career, right?
It most certainly did. I started a photography club in junior high school. In high school, I worked on the college yearbook, and in the high school yearbook, and also in college, I worked on the college yearbook and was a photo editor of my college newspaper.
Well, that's an interesting start. So, as I understand, after that, it slowly started to become actually a profession.
It was a passion, a love of photography and covering things on campus. And to speed up, I ended up working in the Time Life Photo Lab, and I used to wash and dry the prints of the great photographers, Gordon Parks, Alfred Eisenstadt, Carl Minitz, David Douglas Duncans, and then 9 to 5 working in the photo lab, I would go and change. They used to call me Superman. I would go into the locker room and change and put on a jacket and tie, and I would get the AP report to find out what was happening in the town and what was happening in New York, and I would become a paparazzi. And I would wait outside and photograph the celebrities going into Studio 54 or any kind of fundraisers at the Waldorf, at the Hyatt, or at the Hilton.
And in the beginning it was pretty tough, as I understand, and it was freelancing, but at some point it changed and it actually wasn't freelancing anymore, right?
Tough wasn't the word. When you consider working 9 to 5, basically being on your feet all day,
Indeed.
and then go out and cover newsworthy events until 1 o'clock in the morning. I used to commute in from Connecticut, and I would miss the train. The last train was at 1:30 out of Grand Central on Metro North, and I would end up sleeping on my camera bag on the bench in Grand Central, and rush back to the Time Life Lab in the morning to develop the film and try to show it to the editors when they came in, and they were, "Oh, great shot, Fred," but we already had somebody cover it. And putting in 16 hours a day like that sometimes was frustrating, and it took me actually 2 years to do that. I would turn around, sometimes boo-hoo cry, because I just didn't think I was going to be able to make it. And then I received a phone call one day after 2 years of trying that and talking to Gordon Parks, who persuaded me to don't put my eggs in one basket, to photograph and give it to the Daily News or some other publications. And I was eventually getting a little juice from them, press from them, and in the Daily News and the Post. And then I received a phone call from People magazine asking if I had a picture of John McEnroe when he was dating Tatum O'Neal. Mm-hmm. And he was at a function, and I said, "Oh yeah, I have it." And they said, "Wow, well, we would like to look at it." And eventually that picture actually ran in the People magazine, and eventually they will allow me to use their name as a photographer covering events as a speculation shoot. So it wasn't guaranteed that they were going to use me, but it allowed me to get into the events, because a lot of times I just used to be on the streets holding an umbrella with just a camera.
Well, that's quite persistence, and it is indeed more than just stuff. It's, I guess the right word will be the devotion.
Yes, it was.
So the People magazine was the actual first serious start for you?
Well, it allowed me to get other photographs and tighter pictures of some of the celebrities, and I did a proposal for a Life magazine to shoot Gordon Parks directing. Solomon Northup Odyssey is based on the movie 12 Years a Slave. Mm-hmm. And I photographed that, and Life said, "Well, we like you, we see that you have an eye, but you have to pay for transportation, meals, and a hotel." And I said, "Damn, what's left?" They said, "Well, we'll give you all the film, we'll let you, and we'll process it, and any equipment that you need will allow you to use." So I took 3 weeks off vacation, it was in Savannah, Georgia, and I photographed, and I got permission from the set to do the work for on Gordon. And when I ran out of money, I only was able to stay in a hotel for about a week and a half, I brought my tent. I pitched the tent, and that was home. And the males, excuse me, were on the set, so they always had food. And as you could tell, I don't like to eat that much, but nevertheless, I was well fed, and I was working 14 hours a day on the set and sending pictures back to life. And they said they would call me if I went astray, and I never received a phone call. And after the 8th day, I called and said, "What's going on? Are you getting my film?" They said, "Fred, you are right on." And long story short, it was supposed to be for the big screen. It turned out to be for PBS, and the story got killed. But they still loved my work, and eventually they asked me if I could do Minister Farrakhan, and I did that, and I have the Life magazine in '84.
We will be able to explore it after the break.
Okay.
So especially we'll take a look at this Life magazine.
Hello, this is Alex IG from Single Shot with the next single trick. Today we're going to be talking about uneven lighting. More often you have to deal with just one strong source of light. The strongest one, of course, would be the sun. And when it happens, half of your object is lit very brightly and another half is very dark, just like my face right now. Is there anything you can do about it? Sure. You can have professional lighting equipment, you can have professional light bouncing screens and many other things. But the simplest and easiest thing you can use, especially if you're doing it in casual environment, is a regular piece of paper. Put it right against the direction of light, and you will get the source of light balanced and your light being just right.
So let's talk about this trip with Farrakhan.
Well, this is in '84 when Jesse was running for president, and Farrakhan and him were supposed to be friends, and they did. There was a statement that Jesse made that he had to denounce Farrakhan, and so I started trying to reach out to the Nation of Islam, and I was able to get to him. And I started with Life said they'll pay for everything, and I end up having my first issue in Life magazine on the Minister Farrakhan. And
it was the first feature you had in Life.
Yeah,
and it's indeed a beautiful portrait.
I don't know if you could see this here, and it was a whole spread that I was able to do. And that once I did that, I was able to get recognition, and I was a bona fide photographer, and I was able to show the piece that I did on Gordon Parks to ABC, and then I started shooting for Good Morning America. I've been shooting as a freelancer for ABC since '84 to present, and I also shoot Fox News with Chris Wallace. A lot of times now, the photography for still photographers with the new technology, they could freeze frame pictures, so you don't get the calls that much anymore for the set. But I had a long run with television, reality TV shows. Now I try to reach out to children and college students. I'm trying to find a publisher to help me be able to put all my work together and come out with a book. I have photographs of Christy Brinkley in Studio 54 with Oliver Chandon, the champagne. His parents owned the champagne, and he was a race car driver. And apparently that was her first love, and he actually died in a car race. He was I believe it was he was racing and the car blew up, and unfortunately that was unfortunate. But I was the only photographer at Studio 54. She was supposed to be there at a certain time, and I stayed there until like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning when they had the race car in Studio 54, and I was able to get some pictures of that, and it was
quite
exclusive.
unique indeed.
That was another day night I stayed on the bench in Grand Central.
Well, it sounds like you know those benches better than most of the people. Well, it's indeed devotion, as I was saying.
What I try to do, I do speak to colleges and give PowerPoints, and one of the things I try to tell students that, it's not gonna happen overnight. You have to work hard at your craft, come up with different ideas, and what I did, I worked with some of the great. Henry Grossman was one of my mentors as well. Not including Monita Sleet, the first Black Poetry Prize winner. I worked with him. I was a staff photographer for Ebony magazine for 20 years.
Perfect.
And he was the first Black Poetry Prize winner, Monita Sleet, who covered Coretta Scott King in church with the veil over her face. And great Gordon and Henry Grossman I used to tag along with him, carrying his bags and learning his tricks of the trade. And I try to reach out to students and let them know that you have to be on time, and you have to learn your craft.
Well, this is really one of the most noble pursuits, to share something that was given to you by the teachers of the level and quality you was lucky to see.
And one of my most exciting assignment was working with Nelson Mandela. I traveled his whole tour when he first came to the United States, and we were on the road, I believe it was 12 days. And when Clinton went to Africa, I traveled to Africa with Clinton to Africa. I have pictures of Nelson Mandela in his cell block in Robben Island. Yes. I have pictures of him in Parliament with Clinton, and I on the plane I was allowed to, usually the press is in the back, and I was made friends with his publicist, who allowed me to come up front to photograph him on this plane. I was one of the only photographers allowed to do that. Wow. And a lot of it is just being at the right time. When they say no, I usually would pull back. I wouldn't be one of those aggressive photographers, and respect their space and their time is real important in this industry. When I say the word paparazzi, I really don't like that word, because the way some of the paparazzis are today, they're stalkers, they're rude, and I would never go to that extent just to make a picture.
The whole term actually have extremely negative connotations, so
Right.
when it applied to you, I would probably say more appropriate would be freelance celebrity reporter.
I was
It's long, but it's more accurate.
Ali was a very good friend of mine, and the opening of his museum, he wasn't seen for a long time. People, Time, Newsweek all wanted to do a cover of him, and they said the only person they would allow to take a picture in a cover would be Fred Watkins, and I nearly cried. I was so happy. I've done a lot of behind the scenes with him. His personal photographer, Howard Bingham, was a good friend of mine, and he would always have me tag along with him, and I was able to get a lot of exclusive photographs of Nelson Mandela Muhammad Ali, that will be in X Gallery the month of February.
I was actually about to ask if any of those beautiful works we just mentioned coming in this exhibition that New Yorkers would be fortunate to have around for some time from now. I believe it opens in the second week of February.
That's correct. It'll be
Yes.
there through March.
And as I understand, this exhibition will actually have a huge collection of your works, so why wouldn't we talk a little bit about this body of work you're presenting to New Yorkers this winter?
Well, there's going to be a section, a memorial section. I was Aretha Franklin's personal photographer during her singing at Obama's first inauguration, and I photographed her at the Kennedy Center, and I have Count Basie, Teddy Pendergrass, Arthur Ashe, and Ray Charles, and B.B. King, and it goes on and on. I have Kofi Annan. I was in his home at his with his wife. I have seen photos of him that's never been seen.
Well, that's some history we're talking about, and definitely some of these images, especially the ones that wasn't presented to the public before, are definitely worth a trip to the best part of Harlem.
Yes, yes.
Well, we will continue a little bit talking about it after this short break.
Okay.
We was talking about the current exposition in X Gallery, so we don't have much time. Let's try to focus on the works you believe are the most important ones in this body of work.
Well, some of my favorite photos that are in this exhibit is when Nelson Mandela first came to DC on his tour. We stopped, and I picked him up when he first came to New York, and then from New York we went to Washington. And I have that picture of him where the pilot flew around DC so he could see the Capitol and the Washington Monument, and I was allowed to be there to make that picture and watch the expression on his face. I only had a few minutes because we had to fasten our seatbelts, and I liked the picture of him in the Rose Garden, and his posture, standing so straight. And he was with Winnie Mandela at the time, and there was a press conference. There's also some great pictures of the President Obama being sworn in for the first time. And we also have on the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award, where one of my idols is Bob Dylan. Believe it or not, I'm a Dylan fanatic. I could play his songs on a harmonica. Those who know me well will hear me play it, leave a message. It'll be a Dylan, a little tune. But there's over a big poster with Bob Dylan, Maya Angelou, John Lewis, Clinton. There's over 25 pictures. It's a big poster of all the legends. I can't think of them all offhand right now. Sure. But that is a unique that Lisa, the curator, informed me to do, and I'm so excited to work with her because she's actually a genius in a lot of her ways. And we talk late night, early morning. There's some pictures of Gordon Parks on the set, B.B. King at the White House, and we have a selection of all these images are in black and white, and it's sort of gonna look, I can't wait to see it hanging on the walls.
Well, sounds indeed like a treat, and we're actually planning to drop by X Gallery and take a look at the exhibition and ask Lisa Dubois to actually give us a little tour and share it with the viewers of the Single Shot. But unfortunately at the moment our time is up. Thank you very much, Fred.
Well, I thank you.
It was a beautiful experience. Continue good work, and thank you for all these images that preserved history for us.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you, buddy.
Pleasure and
All
honor.
right. Thank you.
I hope you found that worth. I hope you found that worth watching as much as I did. I'm Mark Unger for Roundtable. Thanks for watching.